Halloween is a very strange holiday.
This is the introduction to the very first Simpson Treehouse of Horror, all the way back in 1990. The idea for these special episodes was inspired by EC Comics' line of anthology horror books like Tales from the Crypt, The Vault of Horror, and The Haunt of Fear, which told short horror stories. The Simpsons took that short-form, self-contained anthology approach and ran with it, putting their own yellow-tinted spin on classic horror and science fiction novels, films, and TV shows.
It's alive! Oh, that fellow at Radio Shack said I was mad. Well, who's mad now?
33 years later, and The Simpsons is still churning out Treehouse of Horror episodes every year, with Treehouse of Horror 34 set to premiere in just a few weeks. But unfortunately, these Treehouse of Horror episodes have had a similar trajectory to the larger series as a whole. Every season is just another year removed from the golden age that was seasons 3 through 8. And every new Treehouse of Horror delivers diminishing returns with segments that have become repetitive, stale, boring, not funny, and definitely not scary. So what's happened to these Treehouse of Horror episodes? What are the low points over the years? And is there any hope for the future? But first, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Raycon. I'm always out at busy cafes or loud bars when I'm writing my essays. And when I'm editing audio for my videos or my podcast, I'm crammed into my little corner of my apartment, usually with my 2 children screaming in the next room, separated by just a thin wall. Needless to say, quiet is very important to me. Thank God for Raycon's noise-isolating earbuds. Raycon is probably best known for their wireless everyday earbuds. That's what I have, and I absolutely love them. They're lightweight, inexpensive, they fit snug and comfortable in my ear, they have a 32-hour battery life, and the sound is incredible. You can toggle the kind of sound profiles they have with a simple click. I already mentioned the noise isolation features that Raycon earbuds have, which is perfect for drowning out the loud and busy world around you, but they also have an awareness mode that is perfect for when you're running errands or when you're going for a late night walk by yourself and you still want to hear your surroundings. All these features and still only half the price of other premium brands. It's obvious why they've racked up over 78,000 5-star reviews. Over the years, Raycon has really made a name for themselves in the premium audio space, and this past year they introduced Raycon Home and Raycon PowerTech, and now that Raycon is turning 6, there's a lot to celebrate. To thank everyone who has shown them support in the past 6 years, Raycon is offering 20% off everything on their site, with select products 40% off. Celebrate Raycon's 6th birthday by going to buyraycon.com/elk before this massive sale ends. And make sure you use the code BIRTHDAY at checkout in order to get the discount. Help yourself with some awesome audio tech, and help my channel at the same time. Thank you, Raycon, for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the essay. My original concept for this video was to examine the best Treehouse of Horror episodes, trying to find the single best episode or segment, but it felt too easy and predictable. I mean, there is no grand mystery here. We all know what the best Treehouse of Horror episodes and segments are.
David Letterman!
Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
Go!
Treehouse of Horror 3 through 5 are basically perfect, with classic segments like The Shinning, Dial Z for Zombies, The Devil and Homer Simpson, Bart Simpson's Dracula, Clown Without Pity, and Time and Punishment. But other Halloween specials during the Golden Age run had classic segments like Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace and The Thing and I. There's a few reasons why I think these Treehouse of Horror episodes are considered the strongest of the bunch. First, these segments chose character over concept. What was always so interesting about the Treehouse of Horror episodes was that it took our well-established family and other townsfolk and dropped them into these ridiculous, outlandish situations without needing to provide context or wipe the slate clean at the end like a typical episode. But what was the most important was staying true to the characters. That always came first. In The Monkey's Paw, we get to see what each member of the Simpson family would wish for, and true to character, Bart wishes for fame and fortune, Lisa wishes for world peace.
Lisa, that was very selfish of you.
And Homer so wonderfully wishes for a turkey sandwich with grave consequences.
The turkey's a little dry. Oh, foul accursed thing! What demon from the depths of hell created me?
Some of the best segments were when they could take Homer and just drop him into a ridiculous situation to see how he'd respond. Like dealing with a murderous toy clown in Clown Without Pity, zombies in Dial Z for Zombies,
Dad, you killed the zombie Flanders.
You was a zombie?
time travel in Time and Punishment,
I'll touch whatever I feel like!
and the third dimension in Homer Cubed.
Oh, heavenly testament to the eternal majesty of God's creation.
Holy macaroni!
Other popular segments involved taking character traits or flaws and heightening those or twisting them on their head to interesting results. The Raven highlights Homer and Bart's combative relationship. The Bart Zone takes Bart's narcissism and heightens it by also giving him supernatural powers. The Shinning examines Homer's addiction to alcohol and television. Terror at 5.5 feet only works because we've already seen how Bart has lied and schemed so much that no one at his school believes him when he tells them that a monster is on the side of the bus. Another reason why the Golden Age Treehouse of Horror episodes work so well is because they had a better tonal balance. Segments didn't solely focus on jokes and gags. The earlier episodes were of course funny, but they could also be intelligent, full of heart, and sometimes scary as hell.
Perched above my chamber door, perched upon a busted palace just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more.
The Raven was the final segment from the very first Treehouse of Horror. At the time, creator Matt Groening was worried that having a line-for-line recitation of a 19th century poem with zero jokes would be the worst, most pretentious thing we had ever done. I wish the current Simpsons would take more risks like this and play with tone as opposed to chasing a cheap joke with every second. I already mentioned the Bart Zone, but I love how an episode about a mischievous boy with supernatural powers turns into a sweet and kind-hearted segment about a father and son finally able to communicate and bond.
Hey, oh, thanks, boy.
I love you, Dad.
I love you, son.
And then some of the classic segments were actually really scary. The Thing and I has an excellent creepy vibe throughout.
Oh my God, Marge, it's escaped!
And I actually had nightmares for a few nights when I was a kid after watching Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace when it first came out. The scene with Martin screaming, gasping for air, and eventually dying in the classroom might be the most disturbing moment in the entire series. And lastly, a reason why I think these earlier Treehouse of Horror episodes work so well is because the writers managed to stick the landings. These specials must feel like an impossible task because the writers have to squeeze 3 separate and satisfying stories into each episode. But the earlier seasons managed to do it so well. They could cram so much information into these short segments and still leave each story with a satisfying conclusion, either resolving the conflict or ending with some twist that felt earned through the events that we just watched play out.
Close enough.
My favorite Treehouse of Horror segment is The Devil and Homer Simpson, for all the previous reasons that I mentioned. It takes an already established character flaw of Homer, his gluttony, and provides a situation that cranks that conflict to its nth degree. In this case, Homer sells his soul to the devil, portrayed as Ned Flanders, again taking another established character, but in this case, twisting their personality on their head. Homer goes to hell, and afterwards, a trial over Homer's soul ensues with plenty of jokes sprinkled throughout. The segment then injects heart when Marge shows a picture from their wedding day as evidence, with Homer declaring that he already offered Marge his soul.
All I can give you in return is my soul, which I pledge to you forever.
And then the episode sticks the landing with a twist ending as the devil punishes Homer by turning his head into a donut, which of course Homer eats.
Homer, stop picking at it.
Oh, but I'm so sweet and tasty.
Character over concept, tonal balance, strong ending.
Don't worry, boys. He's got to come out of there sometime.
These are the characteristics of the iconic Treehouse of Horror episodes. But over the decades, these episodes have slowly lost their way. Episodes have become concept over character, with the Simpson family dropped into half-baked ideas built around timely references like Whiz Kids and Harry Potter, Tweenlight and Twilight, In the Na'vi and Avatar, and Bong Joon-ho's This Side of Parasite and Parasite. A lot of the newer Treehouse of Horror episodes are filled with segments that are just taking something current and popular without adding anything new to it or offering a commentary on the Simpsons characters and world. So many of the segments focus on comedy above all else. They reek of desperation, trying so hard to squeeze as many jokes in as possible, with a vast majority of them aimed at low-hanging fruit and ultimately falling flat. Again, modern Simpsons wouldn't have the courage to do a segment like The Raven, with 100% sincerity and not a single joke. Some modern segments aren't even really horror or sci-fi related, but instead lean on action like Mr. and Mrs. Simpson, Dry Hard, and Mo Finger. And I'd argue that a vast majority of modern segments don't even know how to properly end their stories. Instead, most of them are rushed or just fizzle out without offering anything substantial. In modern episodes, there isn't anything connecting the dots from beat to beat in the story. Stuff just happens. It's chaotic, rushed, and haphazard with endings that aren't earned. The only aspect that seems to stand out from modern Treehouse of Horror episodes are the special animation styles and special guest couch gags, like Del Toro and Crickfalusi's couch gags.
There's no such thing as ghosts, you dumb kids!
Toy Gory and Coralisa. The Diving Bell and the Butterball is a perfect example of everything wrong with modern Treehouse of Horror episodes. In the segment, Homer is bitten by a Black Widow spider and becomes paralyzed and unable to speak. He finds that the only way he can communicate is through farting.
Fart once for no, twice for yes.
The episode almost becomes this tender story about how a father and daughter are able to communicate and connect in spite of his debilitating condition, but it quickly reverts into something cheaper and dumber. Homer is bit again by another spider, but this time the bite gives him superpowers that turns him into a Spider-Man-like hero who is still paralyzed but can also fart webs. It's just lazy. Long gone are the segments like Time and Punishment that actually had stakes, consequences, had a tonal balance of intelligence, humor, and heart, while also putting character over concept.
Would you kindly pass me a donut?
Donut? What's a donut?
As an exercise, I thought I'd compare King Homer from Treehouse of Horror 3 with Homerzilla from Treehouse of Horror 26. Homer as King Kong and Godzilla seems like a similar enough concept, but by comparing these two segments, I think I can highlight just how much these newer segments have fallen off. King Homer is a simple story. Mr. Burns, Smithers, and Marge set off on an expedition to Ape Island in order to capture the legendary giant ape King Homer. Marge is offered up by the natives as an offering, but King Homer and Marge end up sparking a romantic connection. King Homer is captured and brought back to Springfield in chains and put on display before eventually breaking free and rampaging through the town. King Homer's rampage comes to an early end due to him being severely out of shape and on a diet of only humans. But with his stage career over, King Homer and Marge get married. Like I said, it's a simple story, but it's a story that you can actually track with linear progression of cause and effect storytelling. There's humor, but there's also heart with the romance between Homer and Marge, so there's multiple things to track that are at stake throughout. And then the wedding at the end is actually earned.
Wait, Marge, I can't find your father. Oh, Homer.
Now let's examine Homerzilla. It begins with Grandpa sending a donut to sea as a daily offering to keep the giant sea beast at bay. But once Grandpa suddenly dies and the offerings stop, Homerzilla is enraged and starts destroying the town. Okay, so far the storyline tracks, but then everything goes quickly off the rails. What we've been watching so far has been just a cheap movie that Hollywood execs want to remake for an American audience, but the film is terrible and becomes this commentary on corporate greed in the film industry. And with the lack of the movie's success, the same Hollywood execs decide to dump the film and all of its tie-in merchandise into the ocean. And as the dumped cargo sinks to the bottom of the ocean, it collides with Homerzilla, enraging him before there's another title card about Homerzilla returning in a sequel. This is what I'm talking about when I say that these segments are full of stuff just happening. There's zero story stakes to care about or even attempt to track. Nothing insightful about the existing characters we know, nothing intelligent or heartfelt, just an obvious desperation to squeeze as many jokes in as possible that all fall flat and leave you feeling absolutely nothing. So, do I have hope for the future? I mean, in short, no.
Ooh, that's bad.
The golden age, where almost every episode was a classic, with an occasional forgettable episode, is long gone, replaced by seasons of forgettable episodes with an occasional solid episode every once in a while. The writers have been making some interesting creative decisions, though, that are trying to breathe new life into this tired format.
That's good.
Just last year, in season 34, they released the episode Not It, a week before their usual Treehouse of Horror special.
Hiya, Barn. I'm Crusto, the funniest clown in the whole wide world.
Instead of the usual 3-segment anthology format, Not It was one long horror episode parodying Stephen King's It. I mean, the episode wasn't perfect, but it was refreshing seeing a parody that ran the entire length of the episode, which gave time for twists in the story, character development, and character arcs, and a decently satisfying conclusion. But the best Halloween episode the Simpsons have made in decades is actually not a Treehouse of Horror episode at all, but the season 27 episode Halloween of Horror.
I want to go home! I want to go home!
An episode about Lisa developing a fear of all things Halloween, and Homer trying to comfort her while their home is invaded.
Boo.
Not only is it a beautiful episode with actual stakes and an interesting plot, but it works so effectively because it's actually canon. The events in the story are real and won't be undone when the credits roll. And to me, those actual story stakes made it way more terrifying than any Treehouse of Horror episode. It's an episode that isn't solely focused on trying to be funny, but instead picks its moments. The episode has emotional depth and builds on relationships. Everything is paid off in the end, too. Lisa has an emotional arc with her comfort raccoon toy, Taily, and the secondary plot of Bart trying to find a Halloween party is paid off too. It's seriously the best episode I've seen in recent memory. Maybe even more surprising than that is the fact that last year, The Simpsons had their best Treehouse of Horror episode since the Golden Age.
Time to put the baby down.
The Pookadook is a parody of The Babadook that has Marge possessed by a monster that plays on her own resentments of the family. Death Tome had some really interesting anime artwork, and Simpsons World was a fantastic concept that I wanted to be its own full episode.
Homer, there's a family of possums in here.
I call the big one Bitey.
Yes! What if Homer was drunk during monorail? Yeah! Come here, dude.
In the segment, the Simpsons characters are robots come to life in an amusement park filled with Simpsons robots reenacting famous moments from the series for park visitors.
Name! Name! Name!
It was the kind of episode that followed the classic formula that worked so well during the Golden Age. Can The Simpsons follow up last year's success with the stellar Treehouse of Horror 34? We'll have to wait a few weeks to find out. But if they can, that might just be the most shocking thing of all.
That's bad.
Can I go now?
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like it and share it with a friend, and also leave me a comment below. Tell me, what is your favorite Simpsons Treehouse of Horror segment or episode? Or maybe tell me which is the first one that you think was like the initial decline, or the day it died. I always like finding an excuse to talk about The Simpsons. If you've watched my other Simpsons videos, you know that I don't really watch it anymore. This is a good excuse to get caught up on what I've missed over the years. over the decades. And I don't know, it's never going to be the same as it was back in the Golden Age. But those times when there's surprising episodes like Halloween of Horror, where you're just surprised that it's capturing something magical and something special that used to be there. It's just like a glimmer or a shadow of what it used to be, and even that is exciting and just reminds me of how great it used to be. Anyways, thanks again for watching. If you'd like to support my channel and become a patron, check out my Patreon page. I'll have a link below. You can go check out the exclusive merchandise, other rewards that patrons get, like early access, behind the scenes content. It really means a lot and it really helps me continue to make videos. Also, checking out the sponsors that I'm working with, supporting them, using my unique codes, that really goes a long way too of just helping me solidify relationships with sponsors, which is a huge lifeblood for this channel. So again, go check out the link below and go check out Raycon. They really do have great merchandise. I can't recommend it enough. Thanks again everyone for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.